Welcome all. I know it's a rainy, glum kind of day, but we're pretty happy here. We're going to dance like mad later. We're here to mark what we regard as a national recognition of one of our heroines of Cranby Township, Vi Milstead Warren, who's being honored with a stamp, which is going nationally. This isn't a vanity stamp. In other words, this isn't paid for, this is earned. And we think rightly so we're celebrating it. We're making it up as we go along. We didn't get a lot of notice, as you know. So, I am so pleased because I know in this room there are people who have come quite a distance. 99, some of our female pilots of the 99s organization, and you should look them up, Google it. pretty auspicious.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, indeed. And Claire, thank you, Claire Mowat and John coming from Port Hope. Nephew over here. Ian, thank you. Sorry, Ian. And you've come from, how far?
Georgetown.
Georgetown, thank you. And David, this is the great nephew, and I'm whispered totally by more than one person. He was her favorite. And many others. And Jane Urquhart, whose mother was great friends with Marion, was great friends with Vi. Both of them midgets, but mighty, I don't call them tornadoes, I call them torpedoes. Man, they were kamikaze when they got together. It was great. Anyway, here we are celebrating and honoring. And so we're going to have, what's your first name?
Marilyn. You want my jacket?
Marilyn Dixon. We go back away, by the way, so it isn't altogether
About
ridiculous.
19 years.
19 years, yes. We went to dinner once here at what was then Vito's, and we had a glass of wine, and damned if we weren't stopped and a ride check. How did that work out? We flashed the elder lady, and they let us through. Anyway, Marilyn Dixon, who is with the 99s and has been instrumental in this happening. She's been working for 2 years behind the scenes, and she'll just give us a bit of background on how this happened. And then we will unveil the stamp. We want to truly thank you, Colborne Post Office, who have sort of at the last minute been thrown into us and are hosting us. Thank you. Thank you. Marilyn.
Well, thanks, Mandy. Mandy referred to the short notice. The reason for that, I was actually contacted about 2.5 years ago by Canada Post, and I was asked if I would be willing to provide information for this stamp. I met Vi years ago, and we became very good friends, and so I was around when she was nominated for the Order of Canada, for example, and that's when I met Mandy, because she was working with the newspaper. Anyway, when Canada Post contacted me, they said, you must keep it a secret. And I didn't realize at the time that they hadn't really officially decided that there'd be a stamp for Vi. But part of their process is they get about 400 names suggested each year, and then they have to narrow that down to topics. They narrow it down to about 20 topics for stamps, and they started 3 to 2 years in advance, and so I was sort of in on it before they had actually decided. Anyway, it went through the process, and they eventually then got it decided the March of 2021 it would have been, that there would in fact be a stamp for Vi. She's part of a series, and there are 5 stamps in the series. They produce about 2 million of these stamps for each topic, and the topic for this one is aviation. I'm really thrilled because it's Vi, obviously. Vi is the only pilot, I believe, on the stamp. Another stamp is for the Beaver airplane and for the flight simulator, for the G suit, the gravity suit that pilots wore, and for the type of propeller. And so they're the other honorees. Vi's the only woman in this series, and she's the only pilot as far as I know. I don't know that for sure because I was only researching Vi, not anybody else. Anyway, it's been, for me, a thrilling process that I couldn't talk about until last Thursday. And when we talked about having an event, they don't normally have events to introduce a new stamp. And I suggested that it would be really nice if they could have an event in Colborne, because Colborne was such an important place for Vi. She lived here during the last many years of her life, and that's how she got to know all of you, most of you that have come out today. It's also how I've gotten to know most of you, or well, some of you, because I've been doing research on Vi for quite some time. And anyway, it's a real thrill for us to be here, and for me to see some friends that I've known for 20 years or so, and Mandy 19, when we got stopped in the ride check. Anyway, we're here to unveil the stamp. I know you've maybe seen this smaller version of it over here, but last week, this parcel arrived at my place from Canada Post. We're going to give you a look at it. It took my husband and me about 10 minutes to get it unwrapped. Just before we do, though, there are two things I want to mention. Canada Post has sent first day covers for me to give out to anybody who would like one who is here today. Probably all of you. I think we have enough for that. And also there's a book being passed around. I would appreciate it if you would sign your name and your phone number or email or whatever, just in case I want to talk to you at some point. I started working on a book about Vi too many years ago, and I'm getting there, but it's not finished yet. And I just might have questions for some of you. Anyway, for the stamp. If you buy them, you may not see in such detail on this right-hand side, but that's a copy from one of the pages in Vi's logbook from May 4th, 1945, and it shows the plane she happened to fly for the next few days. She was a remarkable woman, amazing in many ways, one of which was flying with the Air Transport Auxiliary. Thirdly, for being one of the early women pilots. She got her license only 11 years after the first woman to be licensed in Canada. And besides all of those things, she was just an absolutely wonderful person. And today would have been her 103rd birthday. So this is the stamp. And then you can line up at the post office to buy your own. And on your way out, I'll give you the first day covers. And Mandy has invited us to a reception at the church. Do you want to say
Just
more?
across up at Old St. Andrews, in the hall, there's a cake and coffee. We're not putting you in peril of ride checks.
Pretty emotional being here, as you can imagine. I just want to thank everyone for coming. This is really a remarkable turnout, and it means a lot to me and our entire family. Vi was my great aunt, so you know, as you can imagine, growing up, I heard a lot of the stories of Vi, and all the remarkable things that she was able to do. And as I became older, I had an opportunity to kind of internalize those and spend time with her and learn about them. And one of the things that some of you may have heard me talk about before is just the way that she inspired me. Vi was such a powerful individual, such a go-getter, and really on the forefront of her field and her industry. And sitting around listening to those stories and hearing her talk about flying miners from Sudbury into the bush, talk about the different people that she had an opportunity to fly with, something clicked. And as I was growing up, I decided that those stories of hearing about those miners flying into the bush, that's something that I really wanted to do. And she inspired me to get into engineering and get into mining. And the one thing I'll say is I'm not the only person that Vi inspired. Vi inspired hundreds, if not thousands, of people across Canada and across the world. And for that, this tribute from Canada Post is just something that's so special. So thank you all for coming. It's a remarkable turnout, and I hope you can enjoy the festivities the same way that we all are here today. So thank you very much.